welcome to another episode of the Alphawaves pod in the building with your hosts Darren and Cam, and we do have a special guest here with us.
Yes, we do.
Hi.
Jebonair, thank you for joining us. Did I say it right?
Jebonair.
Jebonair. See,
Come on, Darren. This is the second
time.
time.
I know, but you know.
Returning guest.
I'm a returning guest.
Apologies.
It's all good. Jebonair.
Thank you for joining us again.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You was, am I right in saying the first or second guest we ever had up here?
I think so. Yeah, I think I was the second guest.
Yeah. So it's beautiful to come full circle and see everything that we kind of spoke about materialize in terms of.
That's so true.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but we'll dive into that a bit more. Cam, what are we here to talk about today?
So today we're coming up to the end of the year, so we want to talk about ascension. And just growing, learning, kind of putting together everything that we've spoken about through the year, really, and just looking at as we're coming into the new year, manifesting and vision boards. We want to talk about the process behind ascending, how to get there, what you need to unplug from, and all of that good stuff.
Cool. So
that was the most long-winded.
I thought it was quite concise. I would have said more.
Thank you. I normally just give one line, but
this is great.
You know, we're diving in today.
We are
100%. So like when you're, I don't even know where to start with all of the things you just listed. So if we're looking at ascension, what springs to mind for both of you?
I think for me, I love space. Space travel, space, sci-fi, all of those type of things. And for me, I always think about taking off, like being in a rocket and taking off, and how much, I guess, energy it takes for a takeoff.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's kind of like you revving up a car a little bit. Like you're going to use all that fuel in this first. Like I know for those of you who watch Formula One, you use a lot of fuel before you actually release into that amazing gear of flying through that race course. And it's the same thing with taking off in an airplane. Majority of the airplane's fuel is used up before the actual ascension. Like once you get in the air, you're using just a very, very small bit of the fuel. So I always think about that part, the rumbling, the shaking of the everything feeling like this thing's gonna fall apart. It's gonna fall apart. But then when you break through, it's like ooh. So that's what I think of.
On that, how do you deal with that for yourself personally?
The shaking.
All of that.
All of it. But I love that
preparation.
the whole description.
How do I deal with it? I feel like since the last time I was here, we were talking about how do you deal with situations where it looks as though you're not doing much to other people, and then people kind of write you off as a bum or something. And they're like, oh, she's always saying she's going to do this and she's going to do that. and how that looks, sometimes it just doesn't look like you're really up to much. I think for me, how I've dealt with it is just really keeping my head down and focusing on, okay, this is what I want to achieve. And every day, retraining myself to go, it's worth it. It's worth it. It's going to be okay, babe. It's going to be okay. Just really talking to myself. And for me, prayer has been a big part of that. And practicing like faith in terms of like saying like, if I believe it, I'm going to be able to see it. Like I watched this video of Chris Martin talking, Coldplay Chris Martin, talking about, there was some video where he was like, in 4 years, we're going to be the biggest band in the world, and we're going to have #1 songs, and we're going to be touring all over the world. And like literally it happened for him like the 4 years after, and that made me think, wow, like, okay, if you see it in your mind, like it really can exist. Because to be honest, like, not to get all deep, but everything that we are able to set our eyes on existed in someone's brain beforehand. So
100%.
Do you know what I mean? Like literally these mics, the clothes we're wearing, everything. So I was like, oh, okay, I need to keep that at the forefront of my mind. Like, okay, this is where I'm trying to go. This is the vision, and really just reaffirming that, because it's very easy when the walls are shaking to forget that and to focus on the shaking walls and all the clutter and the noise that you can hear around you. There's even just feeling the unease, of the takeoff. But yeah, refocusing every day has been definitely something that's worked for me.
Yeah.
I love so much of what you said, honestly, because I love that you related that analogy. What kind of brought it together was praying, because that whole thing of, you know, if you think of it as just flying a rocket into space, that's a faithful task.
Yeah.
That's a faithful task. Like, you've done all the work, all the guidance, all the things to get yourself up into the air, and you just don't know if it's going to make it. You just have to have faith that it's going to happen.
Yeah, I agree.
And I love what you said about affirming that to yourself every day, because you need to repeat the things that you want to yourself every single day.
Yeah, I think it just doesn't happen any other way, to be honest with you. Even like during this time, I was listening either to a podcast or something like that, and it was talking about Mr. Beast did the same thing. Like, he'd recorded like a video of himself for like a year ahead or something. He was like, I'm just gonna do this YouTube thing for like a year, and I want like 100 subscribers or something, right? And he was like, I'm going to record this video and I'm going to post it on private or schedule it. I think he scheduled it. Do you guys know the story?
No.
All right. So when he first started, he was doing the YouTube thing and it was going all right. Oops. But then he wasn't like putting like loads of effort into it or something. So when he said, oh, you know what, I actually haven't put my all into it, I'm going to try this time to say I'm systematically moving towards this goal. And so he'd recorded this video, in it, he was basically talking to himself in the future, and he was like, okay, it's 1 year on since you did this, since you started taking YouTube seriously. You've got 100 subscribers, you've done this, you've been able to put a video every week and or whatever. And then he recorded it, put it onto his YouTube as like it's going to go out on this, like a year on that date, right?
Yeah.
And he said that in his mind, he was like, this has to be true now, because if I put it out there, there's no way it's going to come out. If it comes out and those subscriber numbers are not there and I've not done what I said I was going to do, I'm going to look like such an idiot. Do you know what I mean?
But I love that, because he just put, so did he like post, like schedule it to post?
Yeah, literally. He scheduled it to post for like a year on. I'm hoping that this is definitely the true story, because obviously I heard it off of somebody. So I'm relaying you off of that. But yeah, so he did it, and then a year on, like, it was way better than what he'd posted. So by the time it went up, he was not on 100 subscribers. I think he'd hit way above that. So because it worked that time, he was like to himself, you know what, I'm gonna do it again. So he did one for like 5 years and a 10-year one or whatever. And I think I feel like the 5-year one was 10,000 and the 10-year one or the whatever other year that he proposed was like 1 million subscribers. And by the time the one with the 1 million subscribers came out, he was on like 5 million subscribers. Like, it was excelling all of his goals. And it was like, wow, you really did that. You know what I mean? But what it made me think about was that you start in the now, and our good friend who we used to know always
Sounds so crazy,
no, because we're not going to go there.
We're not
Our good friend used to say, we still love her, yes. Our good friend used to say that if it exists in your mind, then it exists. Like, time, she used to say time is the only obstacle. Do you get what I'm saying? And I never used to understand what she was saying, but literally like in my head, like that snapped this year. Like this year, last year, it snapped, because I was like, oh, this is what everyone's been talking about. You have the idea, and if you can perceive the idea, then you can bring it to life. Do you get what I'm saying? So as long as you're working towards it, pardon me, then you will get to that goal, as long as you keep on seeing it in your mind's eye. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of like a big sort of like spark. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah. No, I get that. For some reason this year, more than ever, I've got the belief that no idea is an accident.
No.
So if you keep seeing something, especially, and you really tap into it and feel it, I don't see why you wouldn't go forward and keep trying.
Yeah,
absolutely. Like, I believe that if there's something that you want inside of you, that's part of your blueprint, because you're not going to want the things that aren't meant for you.
Yeah,
you know?
I get
so
you.
When you get those ideas and all the insecurities are coming up, those are all your limiting beliefs and your perceived obstacles. You just need to know that when this idea comes up, don't look at it like the lack of it or how I'm going to do it. It's all about, this belongs to me.
Yeah. And you know, what's it called? Rick Rubin has this book, and it's called The Creative Act.
Right.
I literally started reading it because of Versi, because he heard about it in an interview or something. and he was talking about how ideas are blessings, but also the fact that like they float in a way. So like it's nice that things keep coming back, but I think so a lot of the times we take ideas for granted, and we think that it will always be there. But like think about how many times that you thought of something and then like it's never come back. But what
someone else has
done
it.
That's what he was talking about.
He's like, who's gonna catch it?
Yeah, literally, that's what he was talking about. It was like, okay, it's come to this person, and are you gonna take it forward? And then the next, if you don't take it forward, it might float to the next person who then decides whether they're gonna take it forward. And I was like, that's such like a cool way of looking at things in terms of like honoring like the fact that it's a blessing. Like you have the opportunity like to make this come. With this idea. Do you know what I mean? Which I thought, oh wow, do you know what I'm saying? A lot of the things we'll just think, oh, it's whatever, you let it pass, and you don't necessarily think it's worth going for. But like you said, it's about the pursuit and saying to yourself, you know what, it doesn't matter how it's gonna happen or anything, I'm gonna stick with it and I'm gonna see it come to life. And even like a lot of the times you might think like it's like the how is what clouds things. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yep.
So like I was watching something not the other day, but some time ago, we'll scratch that. And this guy was talking about this woman and how she wanted to take pictures around the world of like amazing places and like just be this photographer who had the best images, you know, like the Nat Geo type pictures, right? So she had this thing, and then he was like to her like, oh well, why are you not pursuing this thing of yours, like this idea? And she's like, yeah, but you know, I need money. And he was like, you don't need money, like you can make this happen. And she was like, yeah, but I want to fly around the world, obviously I need the money for the tickets, and you know, I'm gonna need the money to stay in hotels and all this kind of thing. And he was like, oh, why don't you like open your mind to the idea that it doesn't need money?
Yeah.
And then she was like, okay, fine. Fast forward, sometime later, she gets this idea to like approach these airlines and just say, I'm a photographer. I know your airline goes to Sri Lanka, and I would love to take some pictures in Sri Lanka. Do you mind putting me on a flight and I can take these pictures? And it worked out. Like she managed to get on them planes to several places and got paid to do it. Do you get what I mean? And it didn't require money like how she thought it would. Do you get what I'm saying? So like you said, it's just about honoring the idea and saying, well, how can you get there? The how shouldn't phase you. It's more the how is like how you get is the creativity coming into action.
I love it because the way that I'm picturing it is like the bigger idea of what you want to do is like one big bubble, and then you get like smaller mini bubbles, like the ideas of how to get there, because she had that big idea of taking those pictures, and then the smaller ideas of how to make that more of a reality. And that's the kind of limitless thinking that I think is necessary for ascending, but it is so hard. Let's just be real for one second. It is really, really hard. Like for me, when you're first starting out, especially, and you have that idea, and there's so many things that get at you, like, well, even aside from will the idea work or what will people think of this, it is just, am I capable of that, you know, and doubting it. So where do you guys stand with that, with the process?
I'll let Darren start.
Do you know what
Over to you.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
The process is probably the most difficult part for me, because I used to, I don't know, tell me how you lot think about this. I used to track my journey a lot, and I realized by tracking it, sometimes that was my biggest hindrance.
Word.
What do you mean by tracking it?
Like, just every little step, tracking, number one, tracking the progress, tracking how far I've come, what more I need to do. Any aspect of tracking the journey, I realized,
like a plan and steps and stuff.
Not so much planning it, but evaluating too early almost.
Okay.
If that makes sense. Like in my mind, I might have thought by this point, this needs to happen. If I'm focusing on that point, that's almost like setting an end date. And if it hasn't happened by then
what then?
Failed,
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
And then when I kind of not just let it free, but was more free thinking with it, that this is what I want to get to, but I've not really set a time limit on it. I realized that worked better for me in the process than just say tracking every little period and every little milestone. And this, even with releasing stuff, oh, this one done this, but this one didn't do that. then you realize maybe it was just the timing and people needed this at that point and they didn't really need this at this point. But yeah, it's just that process, I think.
That's such good advice, because I feel like that takes it, like, for one, sorry,
Water break.
I'm okay. I'm just taking it back. For one, it's in like more of a practical sense, the brain, like when you give it a direction to focus on something, it entirely stays there.
Yes.
So you're not allowing yourself that room for adaptability or inspiration. And it sounds like you moved from that kind of rigid mentality to a more fluid one,
100%.
or intuitive one, even with what you said with trusting your gut with as an artist when it feels like the right time to release something. Because when you're focused on the practical stuff and the list and the goals and the checkpoints, you're almost detaching yourself from the creativity of art, which is more than just making it.
Yeah,
Of course, 100%. But it also comes down to how you define yourself as well. And I realized that not even in anything that I create, I believe I create things that are timeless, and there's no time limit if it's timeless.
absolutely. I agree.
I love
Yeah,
that.
Yeah,
that changed my whole perspective. I'm not defined by an era or a period in time. So how can I put a time limit on when this is meant to work?
And just trusting as well, because again, like with that original thought with faith, you don't see it with your eyes. So having that mindset kind of gets you away from having external validation to make yourself feel safe, so you're not masking or clouding over that insecurity that is still manifesting in different smaller ways.
Yeah, of course.
I think as well as creatives, like it's really easy to tip on the metric side of things, because you've got creativity and then you've got, like you said, the milestones and the KPIs.
Yeah, KPI, that's what check was. Yeah,
isn't it? We get all corporate.
We made it fluffy, but
it's the KPI. Honestly, it really is. So when you're focused on those KPIs, you're like, oh my goodness, we didn't hit this number or whatever, or we didn't. Not necessarily even always the numbers, but it's like your brain is almost in a mathematical space now, rather than a space where creativity is moving. And I feel like sometimes when you are in a mathematical space, that you're, I don't want to say limited, but you're kind of focused on, you're zoned in on several routes, or a number of routes, so to speak. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that like, I agree with you. It happened to me as well, where I was like, oh wow, I'm so focused on, I didn't manage to hit this goal. I said I was going to go walking to free my mind up so that I could write.
Said the same, a meditation walk.
It didn't happen. That means I did not meditate.
Day is done.
Yeah, the day's over. Literally. Meanwhile, the fact that you had a phone call with your sister, or you watched a bit of, I don't know, Love Island or whatever it was, that still sparked some of your creativity. But because it wasn't in your, like, on the to-do list, you're like, it's over.
That is so true, because I thought you were going in a different direction in terms of all these other ways you spent your time. But it's true, like, you'll watch something and a character will resonate with you and it will inspire something that you're working on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, it's
it does happen, of course.
It does,
Of course.
What was the question again, Cam? How do we deal with?
Yes, so the question was...
She's thinking.
I'm buying some time.
How do you deal with it? How do you deal with something?
Yeah, so how do you deal with the stuff before ascending? Like
before
that process,
ascending,
all the doubt, when you have the idea, having the courage to nurture it when you feel afraid.
Yeah.
I remixed it, but same.
That's great though.
Yeah.
I think as well, it's okay to be afraid. I think it's okay. That helps sometimes as well. But like, I literally went through like a thing where when I was writing the music, I'd just write the same song over and over, and it would always be about how scared I am to write. Like literally, if I let you guys on my laptop, literally, I could never break through on that part. So I'd literally be like, I'm writing a song, guys. I'm gonna write a song. I'd be on the computer, I'd play a beat. I'm so scared to write. I'm so scared to sing. Every single, like I did it like 7 times, and I was like, this girl, you gotta get out. You need to move out of your way. Like, what is going on?
Move out of your way.
Yeah, you have to. You have to. And I feel like with creativity, sometimes also like, yeah, you want to help yourself, but sometimes for me, I found that it really was helpful for me to say like, this is going to help someone else. Let me put my feelings down so that at least like, you know, it's there.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? It's there. And if someone else can relate,
vibe.
then that would be really awesome. Because sometimes when you're thinking about just you and getting how you feel out, it's not, you get too kind of like zoned in on, oh, is this the right way for it to come out? Whereas when you're thinking, oh, well, it's to be shared, sometimes I think that can open you up to feeling a bit more free about things, you know what I mean? Yeah.
That's so true, like having that why, because it brings it back to what we said with ideas being a blessing, you know, like it blesses you, it blesses everyone around you, and the impact of what you're doing isn't just for you when you're that vessel to do it. And I like what you said about it taking you out of yourself, you know, and all the stuff that you're scared of, because you remember there's a bigger responsibility.
There's countless times anyway when you will release something or put something out, and even if you're unsure at that time, on reflection, when you go back to it, you realize either where you was at that point in life, or it helped somebody that you didn't even know. Like, so you can't really, I call it being selfish with your art. I don't think you can be selfish with your art.
No, I don't. Honestly, I really don't think you can.
You can't. It's so true.
It's
so true. And sometimes the stuff that you feel so vulnerable writing or getting out there, or even think like, who's gonna relate to this? That's the thing that really impacts someone the most. And you realize how, like, I had a moment like that, and I realized just how this isn't just for me, you know, like what you're doing is important, and you feel less alone because you know that not only what you've been through is worth it, but that you're not the only person with that problem.
Yeah, definitely.
And even just like seeing how eternal something can be, like you were talking about earlier, once it's out there or once you've made it and you decide to put it out, it's like, it's gonna live forever now. You know what I mean? So 2 questions actually. So going back to what you said with, you know, how you was in that space with being scared to write and not knowing what to sing and stuff like that, and, you know, speaking that out. How did you move from that step to the next step? Like, what did you do? Honestly, I was praying again.
Oh, I love that.
I was praying again. Like, I'm really big on overcoming fear. And like, I think the thing that I've realized is that like it permeates more areas of life than I thought it would. You feel like, oh, I want to overcome fear of like what people think of me, or fear of being myself, or whatever it is. But then the minute you kind of overcome one area, you look around, you go, hold on, there you are again.
Who's that?
Literally, there you go. So I'm like, okay, oh no, we need to get rid of you. We need to get rid of you. So yeah, with this, I think it was definitely that where I was like, okay, well, you're scared to sing. What does that mean? Does that mean that you don't like yourself? You know, do you not value like what has been given to you? And I feel like when I got to that route, I was like, rah.
You have to humble yourself.
I was like, I'm not being humble. You know, I think whatever's been given to me is not as good as the next person or whatever it is. Oh, why don't I enjoy it? Why am I not enjoying what I'm hearing? And I think that was just kind of like, it was a bit of like comparison. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's really easy to see everyone else doing their thing. And especially if like, I'm a person who really loves my field. I'll listen to like loads of other people doing their thing. But recently, since I've made my own music, I don't as much anymore. Now I'll be listening to like binaural beats and stuff. You know what I mean? Now I listen to like massage music and stuff. But
I love ambient music like that.
Literally now I'm there. But I do do my best to keep awareness about what's happening in my field. And I think sometimes when that awareness sometimes can help, if you're not in a good space, it can lead to you comparing yourself. You see these people with like a massive team and they're able to execute X, Y, and Z. They're on Jimmy Fallon or whatever it is. And you're like, oh man, I'm sitting here in Deptford, you know, waiting for my songs to come out.
How do you deal with that when you can see people on that next part of the process, like in the limelight promoting, and you're still in the hermit mode of the process and creating something? How do you deal with that feeling? Or do you get that feeling of like, I'm being left behind, or I want to be seen now, or, you know?
I think for me, I just was like, you know what? I'm not going to put anything out that I don't love, and I'm not going to put anything out where, so I first have to look at myself and say, okay, this is your gift. Learn to enjoy it, learn to love it. How are you going to do that? Practice. Do it more until you find a place where you're having fun, you know, and go back to the place of having fun, because it's not all about, okay, you need to get the perfect vocal take, or you need to make sure your songwriting is this and that. How can you have fun? So like literally a lot of some of my time, I would say I was like, oh yeah, this is my serious songwriting. And then I'd be like, oh, I'm making serious songs over here. And then Bertie would be like, okay, just let's make one for fun. And he'd put a beat on, and then I'd be like, okay, nyama 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 nyama. And you know, I'd do my little thing, and then that song that we did for fun would be like really, really good. And then he was like, you know, this is because you're not blocking yourself, etc. And I feel like that's like the whole thing of like, you know, when people like smoke before or whatever like that, is so that they don't have the voice in their head going, oh, rethink that, bro.
Not sure about that.
Yeah, not sure about that one, bro. But when you've smoked or you've drank or whatever, it gives you that looseness. But I would say, because I didn't want to be dependent on those things, I was like, I first really need to just have a healthy relationship with what I have.
Yes.
And then that can move me from there. And if I can love what I'm doing and have fun doing what I'm doing, then everything else will be easier for me to do. Yes, people might be a bit ahead of me in terms of like where they are, etc. But it's okay, because at the end of the day, we all have our own race to run.
Yeah. And like what you said as well earlier, if you're timeless, then your time will be at
when it's for you.
When it's time.
I mean, in theory, it does sound great.
It does, but it is hard. I will tell, like I said, I was singing the same song. I made the same song 7 times, yo.
That was your practice time. That was time.
Literally.
That was torture.
But when you've come out the other side of it, what's the biggest lesson that you've learned from that?
The biggest lesson, I think, is that what is in you is worthwhile, and that everybody, no matter what you do or how you express, what you have is worthwhile. And your star doesn't have to be shining any less or any brighter than anyone else's to be considered valuable. It's okay. Like, we're all different types of light. So you've got your glow sticks, you've got your overhead lights, you've got your I don't know, your phone flash. You know, you've got your different types of lights, and it's okay, like, for that to exist. It's okay for everyone to have a space. So I feel like for me that was like the biggest thing I've learned, is like, just enjoy what you have and do the best with what you have, and don't worry about like how it's perceived or what it looks like next to someone else's
just
life.
Stay in that
just stay in your joyful
vibration.
space.
And to add to that as well, I'd say just do it, you know. Like, I remember when I was writing something and I had so many doubts, and then I started journaling to write about my doubts and wasting time, and then I had no time, so I just had to write it, and it ended up being really good with great feedback. So it just showed me the biggest way to, you know, deal with fear sometimes is to just do it.
Do you find it like a release, being able to put it down into like paper and stuff like that?
Usually I do, but it just wasn't the right approach for that moment. You know, that moment wasn't requiring something to analyze or to look deep into myself, or that, you know, there's something that you can't see. It was just being scared on its own. And sometimes when you have that feeling, you do just have to rush forward. There's no way around it, because you're just circling the fear.
I get you.
That's interesting. But you see, in this current era, how easy is it for you to ignore external factors like the metrics, basically the numbers and these things, when you're creating, and you're going through that process of, you've done all the preparation, you've put something out, you're ready to now take off, let's say. How do you, because you have to be realistic in some points where we don't have to, it depends. There's always going to be a level of numbers attached to something. You can't escape it. Like, it's,
I get you.
So how do you deal with that?
So for me, how I'm dealing with it, so there's a person who I see regularly every now and then, and they're also an artist, and they're on a label, and they were like, oh, they've been releasing singles, they're doing the Tik Tok thing, etc., etc. So I was like, oh, that's really cool. myself, I very much have taken a faith approach.
Yeah.
And so I was not going to do any of what I've done over the last couple of months this year.
Right.
It was literally, God said, it's time for you to do your thing. I was like, all right, let me do my thing. So what that meant was, instead of like releasing single by single by single, which would have maybe allowed me to get the numbers up, right? I was like, I'm just going to put everything out at one time. So it was a big gamble. And when I was talking to this person about it, they were like, oh, but you know, don't you want to get the metrics? Like, don't you want to get those numbers on next to your songs and show people that like there's people out there listening? And I was like, yeah, that's all fair and fine, but I think that I've chosen to measure value outside of those things. So while it will be good, and I feel like there was a time for it, my measurement right now is how are people resonating, because obviously I'd never put out anything like a body of work before. So I was like, okay, really first and foremost for me, it was just, do people like my songs?
Yeah.
Do they like it? Is it real? Is it real? Yeah. So that was like, literally, I was like, well, before we talk about any numbers, does it even sound good? Can somebody say repeat on this song, right? So I was like, all right, cool, that's my measurement, whether people will repeat the songs, right? And whether it resonates.
That's a good measurement.
Yeah, and whether it resonates, like whether what I've put in is something that people also receive back, right? So long story short, that was my measurement. And also for me, I really want to do touring. I'd love to, like, next year do like a support slot for someone, or go out on a small European, I should say small, go out on my first European tour, right?
Yes.
Which I would love to do, right? And so I was like, okay, that's my goal. My goal is the touring. My goal is not to be online, seemingly doing things online or seemingly looking like people are listening, because you know from being in the music industry yourself that sometimes people have bots. Sometimes people hire bots, and labels hire bots as well. 100%. To boost up those numbers and make it look as though, okay, there's things going on for this person. But then when you go to listen to the song, you're hearing like off notes, you know, all sorts, and it's like you're not, you know, the music's not as good as you think, even with all the numbers. Yeah. So for me, because I really value what I'm doing and I love music and I respect music, I was like, for me, it's about, is the music good first and foremost? And then everything else can come after that. So when I was having this conversation with this person, they were like, oh, okay. And I said, oh, well, it depends on what your goal is. And my goal is to be out there singing my songs to people in rooms. And he was like, oh, I understand. And he was saying, oh, you know what, to be honest, like, it makes sense for you to do things in the way that you have done, because when you go out there, you won't just have one song to perform. You have several songs to perform. And then also people, I think, we as a human race, we really resonate more with like real life experiences. So if I can give the type of real life experience that means someone will hear my song and want to go back and play it, the numbers will go up. Yeah. If I'm out there.
100%.
So I was like, okay, well, I'm cool with that. I'm okay with looking at my profiles and seeing for, you know, the less than 1,000 plays. I'm okay with that for now, as long as I'm hearing back from people, oh, this has really blessed me, or I love this song, or whatever. And that's what I've been collecting now, like since the music's been out. I've been saying to people, just screen capping every time someone says, oh, this is really, really good, or I love this song. I'm like, that's what I do it for, if 100%. Someone tells me like the song is good. So that's kind of how I'm navigating it. I know that it's not necessarily like a thing where sometimes it might not always be the best business tool, but I know enough of like what I want to do as a business that when it is time for it to matter, I know how to pull out that there is wealth or value in it. Does that make sense?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. So I have this thing, whenever I talk to artists, I always say this: there's no point having numbers if you don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, right? Absolutely.
And that's the majority. A lot of people that sign, first of all, they have no idea what to do with the numbers.
Yeah.
On top of that, I also think there's something in you yourself being able to type your own name in and see something that you've put work into collectively just there. Like, even if somebody asks you, what do you do now? You've got
a portfolio now. Absolutely.
And product will always be key. That you could sit here and talk, but if you don't have anything to show at that present moment.
Word. And you know what I've seen with, but I don't know, you guys know about Buddy, and he had a song, I found it ages ago when it first came. He dropped it on his album and it was called Black. And it had been out for like a year plus before the George Floyd murder happened.
Right.
And then off the back of that, when people started putting together these protest videos, what have you, that song ended up being attached to like this movement, the BLM stuff, you know. And like it blew, and it just showed me how in any business that creates products, right? And obviously our music is a product in essence, right? So it showed me how any product, as long as it's out there in the market, has the potential to move the needle at any time. Books, music, same thing. You know, you have something that people, you know, you'll hear like, oh, it was sitting on my laptop, and then when it was out, this and that happened. And even for Buddy, it just showed me like you could put something out, people might not resonate with it at the time, but then when the opportune moment comes, boom, there goes the song.
Literally.
Same with the book. You write it once or you record it once, and it has the potential to make you millions or to touch millions of lives, whichever. So as long as it's not like a perishable product, it's really just has infinite possibilities as far as like what it can bring back into your life. That's what I think.
And my thing is, as long as it hasn't spiked, that means it hasn't reached its peak yet.
Exactly.
So there's people that do have things out and it might spike immediately, but that's the peak of it. You still got more space to grow and more growing to do with that anyway. So
I agree.
Yeah, I always stress that numbers, obviously, business sense it's important for business. But it shouldn't be at your forefront when creating and releasing and putting what you've worked on out into the world. That shouldn't be, to me. Not immediate numbers anyway. Not immediately, no.
Yeah, because it will never last, I think. It will just be kind of like flavor of the month.
A fleeting, you know, win, and then what? And also what I like about what you said is that it is a really good example of what we spoke about with following your gut, following your blueprint, doing things that might not seem to make sense, but it makes perfect sense for what you're trying to do with your intention and manifestation and even the value that you're placing in music. So I think having that at the forefront is key, because everything else builds around that, you know?
I think it definitely says something about like you were saying, a lot of you have to know where you're going. And I think sometimes it's easy to pick something up, and it's okay. I feel like there's different stages to a creative journey. 100%. Sometimes I think it is good to just dive in and not know where you're going, etc. But if you're saying like, okay, this is what you're aiming to be in for a long time, you have to think. I will say you have to. I'm going to say you have to think about the long run and what you're trying to achieve, and then you're working backwards from there, really. Like, okay, what's your end goal? And how do you get there?
And I think it makes the journey more fun, which is so underrated. Like, that's part of it, you know? Like I always say, your gift isn't just a gift for everyone else from what you create. It's your gift. It does something to you. So having that, being outside of the numbers and not placing that at the forefront, it gives you room to take the scenic route with your own life, because this is your life that you're spending your time on, you know. So
it's about what you place your importance on when you're creating your visions as well. So for me, for example, there's a venue that I've always had in my mind that I want to sell this place out. To this day, I've not done the research to see how many numbers it would, like, I don't know what a sellout would be in that venue, but it's just that venue itself is iconic for me. And that's all that matters. That could be a 500 capacity, that could be 5,000. I don't know. I've never looked into that, because that part doesn't matter to me. It's just that seeing myself selling out that venue is part of my vision. And I think that's what it comes down to, how you create your visions, and if you are into vision boards, what you place into those. I think that's what matters more.
And again, being fluid as well. Like, just because your strategy right now isn't focused on the numbers, that might be a strategy that you'll need at a later time. So having 100%. That trust in yourself, as you said, in that more intuitive journey is so important to be in the race that you're meant to be in.
Agreed.
Definitely. There's different elements to it, but that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
That's a whole different conversation. Circling back to the whole Ascension, what was your driving force behind that this year? Did something change in your life, or without diving deep into personal details?
I'm trying to think. It's been a really tough year. Like, obviously, I'm saying all of this stuff, but when I tell you that I have been crying,
that's part of the journey.
Yes,
that is part of the journey.
I've cried, wanted to scream. It's been really tough mentally, and it's taken a lot of I don't even say willpower, but a lot of determination to just stick through. So at the top of the year, I was like, every year I was like, I'm going to release this song. I want to release them this year. And obviously, so in music, they say, if you're trying to roll something out, you need to be thinking 6 months before. So all of your things that you're saying, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, you need to have done it 6 months before. So for example, if I was trying to release something halfway through the year, in January, everything needs to be ready. The videos, the music, all the lined up, the interviews, the lot. And so I was like, oh, I really want to do this stuff, blah, blah, blah. But then it just started looking not feasible because I was thinking about the money and, okay, how are things going to come together? And I've only got a few songs and studio time and all these different things. And I think top of the year, I won a grant from my university, which was amazing. It was such a boost. I was like, oh, thank God. And then I was fasting a lot. So I'd fasted, like, I usually do like a January fast. Okay. Kind of like Ramadan style. Because I'm not fast. It's 30 days, but it's not really 30 whole days. It's 30 days of like 10 hours a day or whatever it is, right? So I was I was fasting, and then I was just be like, oh, I really want this and that to happen. And I also, one thing I started doing this year was that if I was fasting and I was praying, I would write stuff down. Whereas before, I'd just be like, oh, I'm going to be praying, whatever prayers come, you know. But this time I was like, okay, let's write stuff down. So I had a card, and the thing was, you write down on the card, like, this is what you're praying for. You put it in an envelope and then you close it. And then throughout the month, whenever you're praying, if you remember the stuff that's on the card, then you pray about it. But if you don't, then you just pray about whatever else, right? Okay. But the main thing is just the fact that you've been praying and you know that, like, the things you are praying for. So, like, for me, because I have ADHD, I'd be like, yeah, look, you know what's in the envelope. yeah. All the things in the envelope, that's what I'm praying for. I ain't gonna roll it off. It's in there. You know, I'm not literally back to read envelope. Anyway, read the envelope. So that would be like something like that. So that was the first fast, and then I paused, finished it. Then I was moving on, and I'd be like, oh, let me look for it. Oh, that was it. I was like, oh, let me look for a job. Okay. Because I was like, I need to survive. Like, what's going on? I need money. So I'd be looking for a job. Like, literally the whole beginning of that last year, I was looking for a job, and then over time, it was this whole thing of like there's the song happening over and over again, and recording that song, recording the same song.
The 7 song.
It's literally recording the same song.
7 song era.
Yeah. So then afterwards, I was like, obviously going through the journey of like just saying, you know what, let me love my gift, let me love what I'm doing, whatever. And then that turned into another fast. But during all of that, I was like, every time I'd get up to sing, I'd feel really fearful, like so nervous, like, you know, like debilitating nerves before on stage. And I'd be on a stage and the mic would be wobbling in my hand. I was like, this needs to stop this year. It needs to stop. So that was one of the things. I was like, I don't want to have before. I know.
Just picturing you with the shaking mic, like, enough, no more.
I'm telling you. I was like, no more. I don't want to do this again. And I found this. Fast forward, some time passed, and I was reading about music and singing and stuff. And basically, I found this book that was talking about. It's called The Inner Game of Music, and it was talking about how singing, it needs to happen in the most natural state. So if you tense when you're singing, you're not going to get the best out of your voice. And to me, that was like, okay, girl, like, we have to stop, you know, think inward, etc. So I started relying a lot more on that strength inside. And I was like, okay, every time I'm going to perform, I need to just be as relaxed as possible, focus on what I'm doing, and stay in the moment. Because I think it was really easy to just be like in my head and say like, okay, well, am I singing the right note or whatever? So all of that was happening. Fast forward, by the time I was doing a fast in like July, because I think I'd done 3 this year. So in the July one, I was praying and I was like, I really do want to get this music together, but I just feel like, what am I going to do? And by that time, when I'm telling you guys, I have a good CV, okay? My CV is pretty good. And I applied for so many jobs and literally I didn't get asked for 1 interview.
Wow.
1, not even 1. And that was after crafting the perfect cover letter, redoing the CV several times.
It was not meant for you. That was swimming against the current.
Literally. So eventually I was like, the door is closed, girl. Like, this is not for you.
You don't need the safety net.
I don't, literally. So when I finished that fast, I literally felt like, God was like, girl, this is what you're supposed to be doing. Focus on what you're supposed to be doing so that you can move forward in I'm only going to bless what you're supposed to be doing. I can't bless who you're trying to be. I can't bless like this backup plan. There is no backup plan. Go for it and just do it. So then I was like, oh, okay. I said to Verse like, I think I'm supposed to be putting this EP together. And I want to release it like ASAP. And when I'm telling you guys, like last time I was here, I was recording the songs that I thought were going to be on the EP. By the time I sat down to say like, okay, the EP is going to look like this, like this, like this, I was like, oh, what have I been going through? These are the songs that are resonating. And when I put them together, I was like, this is a theme. Like, this is what I've been going through. And I remember having that feeling of going, I feel like I've been in the mud and it's about like I'm on the way up now. I'm not in that place of depression and anxiety, but I'm on my way up to somewhere, to like a breakthrough or whatever, and to launching. And so I talked to my friend and she was like, oh, have you thought of names and stuff? And then we were brainstorming and she came up with Ascension. And I was like, that's it, the Ascension, blah, 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 blah. And yeah, that's literally how it came to this, is just through those prayers on the cards. It's like I said, I've got several of them that I did throughout the year, but it wouldn't be anything else.
So much more than that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing that, because that whole journey, I feel, to me just embodies that statement, trusting the process in a very physical sense. It shows that, and that's just such a journey, because even when I came to see you with your EP launch, how you were on stage is so different from how you described.
The mic wasn't shaking
at all. The room was. But the mic, no, like, wasn't. You were just so effortless and in your element. And that moment, in that moment, I could feel it. But hearing everything, especially now, it felt like that culmination of ascension. You know, like that was your moment that you didn't know would happen. You just don't know the details, but you knew that there would be something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like even how it came together, guys, like I was like, I don't have a venue, I don't have a band, there's no one to do this, there's no one to do that. When I'm telling you, everyone helped me off the back of just saying, we believe in you and we're going to do this
because
thing
you believed in yourself. Like you believed in yourself. You showed up, and I believe that the universe will deliver what you're delivering. So if you're showing up and you're consistent, the universe will help you with that. It will come forward and put the next step there. And I love that. Most of those next steps didn't look like the next steps you thought they were going to be. You thought the step would be have an idea, create something, do it, enjoy it. And the steps were deeper than that. Like the steps were that process of dealing with everything that was in your way and getting through it and consistently praying and showing up and showing faith, even though you were reaching those points of I should have written something, but I'm still singing about not writing something. And then it all happened, and the EP is absolutely beautiful. So talk to us about that. So the EP is called Ascension.
There's 6 songs. Like I've kind of ordered it in a way that it's like a journey. So I think Good and Lovely is the first track, and it's because for me it was like you can't have anything good until you realize that you already have something good. So like the gratitude thing, which I'm sure you guys have spoken about before, you're not going to have a release of more if you can't already appreciate what you've got. And so that Good and Lovely was about that. I was like, I used to think that everyone else had it, and I used to think, all these good things happen to everyone else but me. You know what I mean? But over time, I have learned through my faith and everything that like it's possible. It's like good things are for everyone, and it's whether you accept it or whether you don't.
And they're within you,
and they're within you. Yeah,
like even what you said with, you know, smoking or drinking to get rid of that voice, like that's been one of my battles, because then you start thinking that your gift isn't your gift. It's come from that thing. And that's just not true. And so it really adds to the problem.
I think for me as well, it was like, oh, who are you without crutches, like you said, like without those crutches, who are you, and do you still love yourself, and do you still, and I think for the good and lovely message is more than just like how it looks on a good day. It's like, okay, do I love myself whether or not I have the money, or whether or not I have the success, or whatever?
You start making your love for yourself unconditional.
Pretty much, literally that was it. So I was like, okay, you know, good things are for me. I know that like there's goodness out there God wants me to have and wants everyone to have. Then I think the second track is Zeros.
My favorite.
Was Good and Lovely the first song that you wrote for this?
No, I think it was actually. It's the oldest song on the project, actually.
So that's what you started with.
It is the oldest song.
So how did you get to that place? Was it just that enough moment of like, enough, I'm just going to accept myself as I am and I deserve it? Oh, okay.
No, this was like another faith work. So I was like, I want to get to the place of believing, and obviously music, the power and beauty of music is the repetition. So I was like, if I put it in a song and I have to keep singing that song, eventually I'm going to internalize this message.
100%.
So it was more kind of like projecting it forward and saying, I want to get to that place, and I am starting to accept those things, but because I want to accept them more and really have it like be a reality in my life, let me put it in this song so that I can, every time I sing it, I can remember like this is what it is.
I love that so much. That is 101 reprogramming.
Yeah, literally. I was like, come on now, we
gotta think something else.
Yeah, we do. Literally, it was that. It was that, and I was like, we can't keep thinking we're trying to write the same song. We need to think this.
It's like a movie to me now. Like, what a turning point in the journey.
I literally was like, oh no, we need to do something else. So that was that. Zeros, again, it was programming again, in the sense of like, I was like, I want to see the zeros. And obviously like my relationship with money had been like, I'd been in the whole when you get money you ball out. Not great finances.
No, it's
not great financial management. But that was when I was working like full time.
Every payday, let me just add to basket,
add to cart.
That was moving from wish list to basket.
I'm telling you, it was like such, and I used to look forward to it as well.
Yeah.
I used to look forward to it. But then
the rest
obviously
of the month is just a myth.
We'll figure it out. But then obviously, because I'd been like working on this music for so long, I was like, nah, like next time I get that big bag, I need to be using it wisely. So then I used Zeros to be like, okay girl, like this is what you got to focus on. Have a healthy relationship with money. It's not the be all end all, but it's good to have, but it's also good to have the knowledge that it is a tool to be used for good. Like you don't just use it just on yourself. Like think about who you're going to help, and think about what you want to build for like future generations or whatever. So that's what that was about.
I love that so much, because I was watching this video where they're talking about money and the spirit of money. And if you believe that money, you know, the more money you get, the more problems you get, you know, only people who have money are selfish or this or that, you are blocking, you're kind of putting a ceiling on yourself. But remembering that money is a tool and you are the person directing that tool, you can use it for good, attracts more of it to you. And also having the respect for it. Like again, if you keep putting, you know, a tenner aside, then the universe will put it there for you also. But if you keep spending it, the universe, you know, is
goes,
always gonna...
she doesn't need it.
She's good. She's good. She seems to know what she's doing. She's happy.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah. Was there any reasoning behind the way that you wrote Zeros?
I wanted it to be fun.
Okay.
Yeah, so I really wanted it to be fun. And obviously my dad, so like for a long time my mum was like, get a job. Like she didn't see the vision. And when I speak to my dad would see the vision, and I'd tell him like, oh, you know, like a living can be made from music, Dad. And he'd be like, okay, just keep doing your thing. Yeah, when you get stuff done, like, you know, let me know and stuff. So that's why I was like, oh, I'll put that lyric about my dad. You know, he said that I should just move on, like move forward towards the goal and stuff. But I really wanted it to be something fun and just like, for me, it sounds almost lamentful. Like, oh, it sounds a bit, not lamentful, but like it does sound a bit sad sometimes to me.
Yeah.
Like the whoa, it sounds like you're dreaming. You get what I mean? Like dreaming, like, oh, one day there'll be these zeros.
You know what's interesting, yeah? Because at the start, well, we'll get onto another song in a moment.
Yeah, sure.
But at the start, I looked over the track list before I listened to anything, and there was a few titles that stood out to me. Zeros, I wasn't sure what I was going to get from it, yeah? But when I listened to it, I completely forgot how you wrote it until I looked back on my phone to see what song I was listening to. Yeah. Then I took it as, like, initially I thought it was just going to be about zeros, as in...
Like, oh, give me that, you know, I want to ball out.
Then it kind of took me, when I looked at how you wrote it, it was like, I interpreted it as like an X amount of zeros. Like there's not a limit on the amount of zeros.
Absolutely.
Like, that's how I kind of took it.
Yeah, infinite. Literally, I think it was Versy's idea to put the commas at the end, right?
Right.
And I was like, yeah, literally it is that, because we've been watching this guy called Myron Golden. You guys should check him out. He's amazing. And he talks about business and finances and stuff like that. And he literally was saying what Cam is saying, which is that like, it's not about, you know, people say, oh, money changes people and it reveals your character and stuff like that. And yes, to an extent it does. But I think like when you put a limit on yourself, you limit money as well. And for you, it's okay for you to have infinite. There is an abundance available to everyone. But do you want it? And do you, if it is a thing where it's going to come into your life and do the most hurt or whatever, then maybe you have to look at yourself and go, you know what, I need to think about my approach, right? Because we'll all sit here and complain like, oh, it's so unfair that there's billionaires out there who have all this money and they're not helping the world. But then we won't in the same breath say, okay, well, they're doing that with money, let me get money and do the things that I'm saying that I'm missing in the world or whatever it is. So yeah, it was definitely about that infinite possibility. Like now I was challenging myself to say, because every time I'd pray, when I was praying on them cards, I'd be like, God, please send me X amount. And he'd be like, is that all?
If you insist,
yeah, literally. And I'd be there like, okay, how about 10K more? And he'd be like, oh, is that all? And I'd be like, okay, 100. You know? But what it made me think was like, you think it's small, bitch. You need to be thinking
bigger.
Just too specific as well, because you don't know how much would actually satisfy you.
Yes, exactly. Right. So I was like, let me just keep it open. If it is for me to have enough, you know, loads and loads, then fine. Yeah. And I'll do with it. But what it is I think for me, the asterisk or whatever it is, or the parenthesis is, but do good. Yeah. It's okay to have, but do good. Because there's no point in you having loads and loads for waste.
Yeah.
You know?
And also money does change you. It does. Yeah. But why do you have to assume that money's going to change you into a terrible person?
Exactly.
It might not. Make you more generous, you know, happier, because you're investing in yourself. So I think don't be scared of, or don't take so many things outside of your control. You can be the you that you want to be in any circumstance.
Yeah, I think we let go of the reins of control a lot with money. We think that like, oh, as soon as we have it, we're going to lose. We're not going to be able to, we're going to lose sight. We're not going to be able to see clearly. All we'll be able to see is diamonds. And you might buy it and it might satisfy you for a bit, but you know, think about what else you can do. You know what I'm saying?
And that's why I love your intention with your music as well, like that true kind of value and intention, because it keeps you grounded in your journey. Like I love that you were saying how, you know, the reasons behind your songs were for you, as well as the wider reason. You did put yourself in the center of it in the right way, like what I said earlier, using your gift for yourself.
Absolutely. I just was like, I'm at the point now where I hate poverty. I hate what it produces in a person's life, and I hate the fact that it closes doors and it closes opportunities and it limits a person. I think that that's really, really sad. Like to be sitting there thinking about, okay, well, I can only have this meal Like, no, you deserve more. You deserve to have options. You get what I'm saying? You deserve to be able to decide, oh, I can do this or I can do that. And I feel like sometimes we settle too much on like, oh, well, this is available to me, and this is my lot. I'll just take it and whatnot, and I'll just live an honest life. And you know what I mean? So I was like, I don't want that. I want to have. I think when people say, oh, 20 million and kiss your dad or whatever it is, you know what I mean? Kiss your dad on the lips or whatever it is, or whatever, you know the ones.
Not that one specifically.
Yeah, not that one, but yes, you know the dinner with Jay-Z. Dinner with Jay-Z or 500k. But those things there, it's like, I think what people are really saying when they say they want money is they want more options. Because I think a lot of not having money is a limit of options. And people just want to be able to have choice and have the liberation to do at the moment's notice what they want to be able to do.
It's true.
100%.
It is a limit of options and then an abundance of limits. It's just a cycle.
It is.
So he-girls.
So, oh my days, I have so much to say about he-girls.
This is what I wanted to hear more.
Oh, I love that. Okay, go on, ask your questions.
No,
do you want me to explain it first?
Yes.
All right, so he-gro is a topic I've been thinking about for a long time. It actually means hero Negro. So at first I was saying Negro in the song. And so I'd record it. Every time you hear Negro, it was Negro.
Right.
And then I was like, oh, it's Negro, Negro, Negro. And then I was like, oh, but I don't want it to be a thing where it's one of them songs no one, like, only black people can sing. I didn't want it to be funneled into a certain direction, and I wanted to have more life. So I was like, oh, I can record a clean version called Hero, because that's essentially what I was saying is like, black people, we're heroes in the sense that people want us to kind of be the banner of hope, so to speak, in a lot of different aspects of life. We're like a poster child for a lot of things, for culture, fashion, music. And even when we exist in spaces, it's like we're seen for our blackness first before we're seen as a person first. So it was things like that I started thinking about, and I was like, oh, it could be hero, because, you know, I feel like black people were like heroes. And then it was like hero, Negro. Then I was like, oh, he-gro, I like that, he-gro. So then I'd started recording he-gro as the takes. And I was like, oh, this sounds really cool. And then, but yeah, the topic wise, my concern was about how us black people were treated in England specifically, which is that we're kind of a caricature in the media. But, you know, it's the whole thing of like, okay, well, black women were wearing bust down, we're wearing the wigs and the swirls and the baby hairs, we had our long nails and everything, and then it's ghetto when we do it, but then if another cultural group picks it up, it's all of a sudden it's cool. Gold teeth are cool, everyone. You know, big bums are cool, but then we'll be shunned for having those things. And then there was also the thing of like us but the code switching, and being in workplaces or places, white spaces, and feeling like the code switching is necessary. There was the thing of feeling like the only black person in the office, and you got to represent the whole black race, you know. And there was also some of it about like how in the media we have this culture, especially in England, where like only one of us can be at the top at one time, or if there's a show like a Strictly Come Dancing or any of these shows where there's going to be a variety of people, it's one black person, one of us only, and that is it. The minute there's two black people,
and that's representation,
literally. Or, you know, even, do you know what I mean? So I was like, oh, that's really sucky, and I just hate that. Like we're not a monolith, and we have loads of different ways of being, and even this whole thing of like, oh, black people were only applauded when we're successful. So I was like, okay, so excellence. A lot of the times we think of excellence as being you have to wear a suit, and you need to be prim and proper, and your hair's got to be like this or like that, or your clothing has to be like this. All these external factors. And I was like, I think every culture has something about them that's like their zhuzh. And I was like, with Black people, we have a beautiful essence as well. So for me, that essence of what it means to be Black was the excellence that I wanted us to zone in on, rather than all these external things, which one, you want to use other people want to use anyway, and two, we're either glorifying them or we are shunning them, which is just not helpful. The last thing I'll say as well is that it kind of goes back to the whole like Black people being treated as a commodity. So we move from an era of something like a slavery or, you know, racism being very overt to now your body, your physical, like your being and your physical labor was what was the commodity before. Like you, the person, could be sold, you can be a slave. Whereas now it's like what Kanye was saying about new slaves. It's about what you produce as a Black person, or like how your body is for other people's consumption. So I was like, no, we have to stop doing that. Like, treat people as humans, enjoy them for who they are. Don't approach us Black people as like someone who has to fit in your box. We're more than that, and why should we have to be put in this box in order to be accepted? And then even in that box, there's paradoxes that exist anyway outside of, you know, do you know what I mean, as part of it. So that's, but then at the same time I was like, oh girl, this is really deep, man, you know. This is really deep, but you're saying a lot, so how can you make it like fun and or even just celebrate and uplift? So that's when I was like, okay, for me the song is a big metaphor and a big what do we call it, when like a double meaning. So like for me, I intend that when Black people sing it, they feel a sense of pride and they sense the irony that's in the song. But if anyone else that does not necessarily have a lens on that experience is listening to it, they'll still understand the core messaging. And that's why I was like, okay, it's important for us to celebrate ourselves. So whether you are, you know, the best at your football or whatever, or you know, you're just a beautiful Black girl who's really good at running or whatever it is, you can still celebrate yourself without feeling like this is all that I can be celebrated for. Do you know what I'm saying? You're more than that. You're more than your actions or like what you provide for other people. So yeah, that was Hero for me. But I was like, I still want it to be like an anthem for us to listen to and be like, yeah, good. It was a good Hero, good Negro. Do you know what I mean? It's ironic, but you still can take it as like, yeah, man, I'm good. Like I'm actually fly. I'm good as I am.
And good as you are, whether you're fitting into certain things that are promoted in the media or whether you're not. And I love that you focused on the nuances. Like we're more than just the representation of everyone in this culture. We're a whole personality and a person, a multifaceted being.
Absolutely. I agree. And obviously for me, I was like, it's important for me to speak about what things are part of my experience, because I could have made the song about like, okay, people of color, but I kind of don't really like that term because I feel like it groups everyone together. And I get it. These terms sometimes make it easy to talk about things, but sometimes when we group certain things together, nuances are missed. And that means that we can't best serve certain communities or certain people from, you know what I mean, specific veins. And I think as a Black person, for me, it's important to talk about what Blackness means to me, highlight the things that I've seen and celebrate my culture.
And I love that. I love the focus on your experience, your culture, and not feeling the pressure to rope everyone in, you know, and carrying more than you need to.
I think it's important.
Definitely. I mean, there's other songs on the EP as well.
Yeah, they are. But I wanted to hear your Hero questions.
No, you covered it. Yeah, very much so. Very much so. I was hoping you kind of did without me having to press for questions, just to see if I was on the same wavelength. And I was. There's other moments on the EP. If there's any that you want to touch on specifically.
I'm going to talk about Bright. So Well, Bless No Stress was, you know,
I'll be honest, when I heard that, yeah, it was like off the back of He Grew Up. I felt like I was in like a Disney movie.
Yeah,
like
it is really fun, isn't it? Like, yeah. I get what you're saying. For me, I was like, it's like bubbly. Yeah, there was quite a lot of sparkly feeling to it. Yeah. But yeah, for me, like I was saying, you know, prayer's my weapon now, like in that song, and I'm not gonna stress. I'm blessed. I'm stressed. It was a very big kind of affirmation type track for me, because I was like, yeah, think about that, not the worries. Focus on the blessings, not the stressings. Ooh.
EP number
Literally,
2.
EP number 2.
Still ascending.
For real, still ascending. But that's part of it. I was like, after you've enjoyed being an amazing Black person, just don't stress out. You know, enjoy yourself. But yeah, with Bright, so much coughing. With Bright, that one I wrote by myself. I mean, I wrote all of them by myself, but I mean, like this one, I wasn't writing it around anyone. Whereas with Hero, when I first made it, I was writing bits, but some of it was coming up in the session where I was like, okay, I'll finish this lyric here, whatever. But Bright came out of a really, really kind of like intimate space, because I'd wanted to write something about this experience, but then I was like, you know, I didn't think I'd put it on ever in music, but then Vess was like, you know what, you should write about like what you've been through and stuff. And obviously, like I was saying, part of accepting myself was to do with having peace with some of my experiences. So when I was about 6 years old, I was sexually abused by somebody who was like quite close to our family. So I held that secret for like more than me. I would say like 15 years or something. Wow. So when I was, I think 10 years, yeah. So from about 6 years old. So I didn't tell somebody about it till later on, like in my teens or something. Yeah. So in my teens, I told one person, and I still kind of hadn't really processed it. And it was like when it came out, when I told this person, it was like, it almost didn't sound real to me. But I remember like it happening and me just being like, I just have to focus on what's next now. Like I didn't even have time to really process it or anything like that. But that's been something that's been really like heavy to deal with. And when I'd started kind of writing the songs at first, when I first started thinking about the EP, that was like, okay, I'm doing the purging of crying it out and just like coming to terms with what happened, and I guess seeing the event for what it was, you know, seeing what happened, because it wasn't like a one-time thing, sadly. So I really needed to sit and like think about what was going on and how I would look at it, what did I feel about myself, etc. But I wrote it, and when I first found that loop, the guitar loop, and I was like, oh, I really like this, and I just started singing, and then I left it for ages. The idea just stayed there. But then when I said, oh, you know what, let me build the song, I was like, oh, you know, I feel like what I'm saying is like, I am kind of speaking to myself. Let me just reach out and like really try and finish penning the rest of this song so that I can get these emotions out. And that was kind of that. So I recorded it in the end. I think I did it mostly by myself, like when because now I was at home and I had a mic at home and stuff, so every time I had like a little moment, I'd be like, okay, let me just get my laptop and write and, you know, sing it out and stuff. And that was that. But yeah, that one means, I think that means the most to me out of all the songs. I loved Hero. I really do love Hero. But because it was like, you can't ascend until you've like not buried, but like until you've dealt with your past. You know what I mean? So when we're talking about the things that have held you back, because we were talking about like the blocks of like manifesting and stuff, and it's like, yeah, you know, if you have been through depression, anxiety, trauma, all of those things, or self-doubt, you have to face that before you can say that you can embrace something new, because you're always going to walk around holding that while also trying to hold the new thing that you're after, you know.
100%.
No, you know what, like even when I heard Bright at the show, the song itself felt like a journey, you know, like through it, and it felt almost like going into this ethereal but yet grounded place. Like it felt very free.
Yeah.
Like I feel like looking at that kind of metaphor of mud and unearthing and growing, that felt like the blossoming moment in the song.
I agree.
Sorry, in the EP,
yeah, thank you. I agree. I think for me it was really important to just say like, even though I went through that, I'm still bright. Like, and I wanted that to be a message. Like, if someone else heard it and they've been through a similar thing, like your your traumas and things that you've been through that weren't necessarily like your choice, like they don't have to define you to the point of like, oh, that's it, your life is never going to be
and they don't have to lessen your
and
life.
they don't
like,
they don't.
Like I feel like when traumatic things happen, you kind of have this internal feeling that you've been dimmed or damaged and something has been taken and it will never be replaced. Whereas that song really flipped it to you. It's just added more light to me.
Absolutely. Yeah, like it's that whole thing of like your scars make you better and stuff, you know what I mean? As horrible as it was, it's like now I'm hoping that when people hear the song, they feel like a sense of peace as well, whatever situation they've been through. But that was kind of what I was saying, is like remain shining. Like it doesn't define you.
Definitely. Before we start to bring it to a closure, there was something that I wanted to ask you. So it's in relation to your show.
Oh yeah.
So a quick backstory. Cam told me about your show.
Yeah.
She invited me down, but I had other things pre-booked.
Oh man.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But she gave glowing review of your show, right?
Love that.
What's interested me even more now, because at the time when she gave me the review, I was like, oh, that sounds great. That sounded so condescending.
So like, I'm not convinced.
No, generally I was impressed because but what impressed me the most is afterwards when I asked her, so I wasn't aware that it was just your show, first of all. So I was like, I asked like, was there other acts? She said, no, it was just her show. I said, oh wow, because from our last conversation, you hadn't released, right? So then I was like, okay. So I was like, oh, what? She got a whole team with her, etc. She's like, no, she kind of put it together herself. I was very impressed.
Oh, thank you. I really
and the room
that.
Was full. Like I had to keep fighting for my spot. It was really the room was full. Yeah.
So how do you go from releasing your first project to putting together your own show in not such a short
it was a
space
short
of time,
but it was
in terms
it was like a month.
Okay.
Oh wow.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so
that's how quick the blessing can
I'm
be.
telling you.
Wow. Time does not exist.
Time does not exist when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Do you get what I'm saying? For me, that was confirmation, because I was like, mate, I was not even thinking about this. So literally, God was like, put out the EP. I was like, all right, I'm gonna put out the EP. We started working on it. Like as in finalizing it, because some parts there were some things that I hadn't finished. It wasn't mixed, it wasn't mastered, and obviously for those of you who work in music know that is a process in its own right.
Those sessions are draining.
Oh, they are draining. And I was like, it needs to get done now. So when I'm telling you we were a month behind that deadline by the time God was telling me do a show, and I was like, with what money?
Suddenly, like going through the envelopes, like, what did you ask for again?
I'm telling you. I was like, man, the envelope. It's not here yet. What do you want me to do? I thought you were deliver it. I thought you were gonna bring this, and it hadn't arrived. I'm telling you. So I was like, all right, cool. Need to find a venue. Like I wish I could sit here and explain there was so many like intricate, amazing details, but like literally there was a festival that happened in my neighborhood, and this girl who works at this cafe that's like across, which ended up being the venue eventually, she organized it. There was a night where they were like, okay, well, you can club hop between these three venues. So while we're club hopping, I meet her outside and I'm like, oh, hi, da 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 da. And she tells me she organized a festival. And at the time I was telling her, oh, I want to do a show, And she was like, oh yeah, okay, cool. I was like, yeah, I've got this vision to have it look like this. And she said, oh, well, give me a shout because I'd love to like visually produce it. And I was like, oh, awesome. And I was like, girl, literally, and I'm
that's how it happens.
I told her, I was like, girl, there is no money. There's no money. And then she was like, it's fine, I'll do it for free. Wow. Like that, literally.
See?
And I was like, girl, I was like, okay, cool. Then obviously I was holding out on this one venue. The venue was standing outside of. I was like, oh, it's going to be here. Fast forward, they took ages to get back to me. And then eventually, and a funny thing is, Versi had said, why didn't you ask her if it can be at the cafe? Before I was like, no. So eventually when I asked about the cafe, she was like, yeah, it's cool. We'll have it here. And like literally, so the EP comes out. The EP was a month late because it was supposed to come out in October. No, it was supposed to come out beginning of October. And then in like, what's the month before that? August? September, sorry.
I was like, yes, it is.
So in August, I was saying the deadline is September. September elapsed everything. And then it was October. And I was like, the EP is not ready. We're running towards the EP. Then I said, I want the show to be in October. I wanted the show to be on like the 21st or something, or the 28th. Yeah, I wanted it to be on the 28th. So I'm looking at the venue. They're telling me, oh, you can't have, we don't have the time, whatever. So I was like, fine. So I had to look for a new venue. Then the cafe came up. Yeah. So then the EP was going to come out on the 20th, right? Yeah. It was going to come out on the 20th.
Yeah.
But I said, you know what, we'll do the 24th. When I'm telling you, it was ready like a day before we were supposed to put it up.
Wow.
Which is really bad because I had to wait because sadly I gave Versi loads to do and he had other things to do and he had to mix and master everything.
Oh wow, well done.
Well done, yeah. So yeah, literally. And then another annoying thing that happened is that I was so broke that my phone got cut off.
Right.
And so I had to go to the cafe to upload the EP to distro. And yeah, and I was standing, I was standing outside that cafe like I'm here with no internet trying to put this together, but it's out, blah 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 blah. Oh, I put it up actually, and I was like, oh, I've put it up now. And you know, I don't know, people that have put music out know if you don't have like a pro account, you can't decide the release date.
Oh.
So you can tell them I want it out on this day, but there's no guarantee that it will be out on that day. And also like if you put something out now, so you need to be working in advance because if you want it out in 2 weeks time, you need to put it out now so that you give them enough time and then hopefully you can
the stakes were high.
They were. So I literally was like, okay, it's up now. It's been uploaded to the thing, and I'm like, oh, it's gonna take ages. The show is now booked for the 7th, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, it's booked for the 7th, I'm telling people, like, I'm outside the cafe with no money. Oh, the 8th, sorry, the 8th. The show was on the 8th.
I was thinking in my head, I was like, I'm sure it was...
Yeah, I'm really bad with numbers. I'm better with words. So anyway, the show's on the 8th. I'm like, oh, my phone's still cut off, still trying to get like stuff together. Like I'm telling you, like there was no money here heading towards any of this. And the funny thing is that I'm a person of faith, like I said, and like for everything else, I'm always like, yeah, it's gonna happen. And for some funny reason, I did not think I would have to apply my faith in this area. I just thought it will all come together. Everything's gonna work out. Like as in I'll have the money, I'm gonna pay in advance, and it was not that. Everything was literally like, okay, take a step and another step. Every day I was like, I don't know where this is coming from.
It was like, you're only going to take one step.
That's all we're giving you. Literally, it was one step. And like I'm telling you, I put it up the night before. The next day, the project was on Spotify, guys.
Crazy.
And I was like, what? No way, actually dropped on Spotify. And literally, you know that is unheard of. Like, I literally was like, what? It's up the next day.
That is fake.
I'm telling you, it was fake.
I think things happen like this just to show you that faith is real.
That is real.
Yeah,
literally, I was like, okay, I guess I'm supposed to be doing this. The band, literally, and even like money. So like, we needed like a rehearsal space, and it's like, the rehearsal's like the next Monday or something, and I have no idea where this money's coming from. During the weekend, the money arrives in my account to to literally book this rehearsal and everything.
These last 4 days,
literally, it was just like
but crazy.
I'm telling you. So that's how you get there, by just the one step at a time.
Yeah. And
just going, you know what, let me see. Even like there was some things I was like, oh, I wanted to have like merch and things like that, and I was like, what am I gonna do? But like I said, for me it was myself. Versi helped me plan a little bit of it. Like he's mostly focused on the music. I put together the band, the rehearsals,
Wow.
everything pretty much. And obviously Jessie helped me with the visual side of things eventually. So she dressed up the venue on the day. And Versy's idea to have those cards that we were selling. So, you know, it was just like, and even just on the night, I was like, okay, so if I'm performing, who's going to welcome people? Who's gonna do the tickets? Because it's me. I'll be on stage, so who's gonna do that? And my friend literally hollered at me and was like, oh, do you need anything doing? And I was like, oh, I actually do. I need someone on the door. So like people would just come and just be like, oh, you know what, you need a bit of help doing this. Even the band, like I wouldn't have met them had it not been for me meeting this one friend of mine who plays keys. And then they were like, oh, you need this. Like I asked somebody to do like BVs and they were like, is it just me? And I was like, yeah, it's just you, because I don't want to ask people, because if they ask me for money, I don't know how I'm going to provide it. So then he was like, no, we're going to get someone else. And he just invited his friend like to come through. And then our other friend joined, and it was stuff like that. It was just everyone kind of like thankfully giving their time to be involved. But I do want to pay everyone. I still want to pay everyone, but I was still literally, after it finished, everyone was like to me like, just don't, you know, like, we're really happy for you, and it's good that it's all come together. But yeah, literally all by faith. I need a team. But yeah,
timing.
I love that, because I always say that, you know, just in a kind of slightly off topic way, say if you need to talk to someone or something, God will always bring the right person to you at the right time, like the right friend. And so if someone's not coming there, that means he wants you to talk to him yourself, you know? And I feel like this whole experience was just an example of that. Like one by one, the bits came into place, and even further back, like all those harder moments, all the fear, all the fasting, all the bits in between, all of that, like it prepared you. Like it was the practice of faith. So when the stakes were high, you had that practice of faith to keep you going.
Yeah, I agree.
Definitely.
I agree.
Story's commendable.
Yeah,
thank you.
Story. I told you, it's like a movie. Yeah. But thank you so much for sharing that, because it makes me feel, you know, those moments of frustration when I'm like, my process isn't moving fast enough, or I'm wasting time, or, you know, these hard moments aren't meant to be here. It's just shown me that every experience as part of the process is valuable. It all adds value. Yeah,
it does. I agree. I feel like even just the whole thing about the hand shaking on the mic is the same. Like I think because I got to the place where I had overcome that, was then it was like God was like, okay, you can do the show now. But if I had tried to plan it before and galvanize efforts towards doing stuff, I would have been up there shaking, do you know what I mean, and not really able to like enjoy that,
live in your moment,
so that even all those little things that I felt like, oh, you know, there's this obstacle, that obstacle, but I feel like the main thing is really just going for what calls out to you the most. Put the effort there, because you can, and that part of it as well has been like, you can't live for your parents, or you can't live for like what other people perceive is you're supposed to be doing. If you 100%. Are in something and you feel like, you know what, mate, like I'm really not enjoying it, do the thing that you enjoy. I feel like you hear all these stories about people like, oh, I used to own a how many $1 million company, and then I became a farmer and I really enjoyed my life. Like, do you know what I mean? You have to do what makes you happy.
Do more of what you enjoy. 100%.
Yeah, totally.
100%.
And I love what you said again, like with not living for other people or your parents and stuff like that, because maybe what you're singing, your voice isn't for them. Like it's for people who need to hear the songs that you've made. Yeah,
I agree.
So what's next for you?
What's next? I'm going to be promoting this EP like my life depends on it.
Go ahead, promote it.
Yeah,
full
because
steam.
I just absolutely full steam ahead. I was like, you know what? Like it's been a journey, scratching and crawling to get to this place. And so now I'm just like, I want to create more. I've already started writing the next one.
Okay.
But I was like, I need to give this time to breathe. And I feel like there's a lot of messages that are oh, that was a really big lip smack. I think there are a lot of messages that people can resonate with and that will be of benefit for people to hear them.
I second that. Like, honestly, I said it to you as soon as I was at the show and heard all the songs. They were the messages I needed in that moment. And I felt like that room was full of that sentiment. It was honestly, I told you, it felt like I was transported to another realm. It was a magical space. Like that was a God-given space.
Thank you. And it's just a microcosm, because literally that's what I felt like. I was like, this EP is for people who are growing.
Yes.
One, but also that feeling that you felt at the EP launch, that's what I want to replicate for every single show. I want people to feel that way. I feel like music it has the power to transport you through time.
It does.
And so, and to transport you to, you know, new different places that you haven't been before. So that's something I feel I really want to be a big focal point of my work. I would love to set up more shows.
I was just gonna say,
collaborate with
grab
people.
A ticket, because it was really the vibe. It really, really was. And you know, just to say as well, like I was going through my own stuff around that time, and I wasn't really going out and doing things and stuff like that, and not really realizing that I was going into my shell again. And being in that space was not just a healing moment, it was what you said, like it was fun, joyous, uplifting, you know, so definitely worth going to.
Let them know what the EP is called again.
The EP is called Ascension by Jebonair, and you can find it on all platforms. Wherever you listen to music, you can find it there. And you can buy it on Bandcamp. Because as you know, I need to pay the people I work with.
Yeah, you heard the story.
So I would love to pay those who I work with. Please support me. Thank you.
Where can anybody find you?
I'm mainly on Instagram, but I am doing my best to migrate my little feathers to TikTok a bit more.
And is that at Jebonair?
On TikTok it's at I am Jebonair. On Instagram it's at Jebonair, and TikTok, no, what's the other one? Twitter is I am Jebonair as well, because somebody else took Jebonair. Some person who's not even called Jebonair.
How does that problem?
I know, it happens. Give me the name back.
No, well, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us here.
Thank you.
It's definitely been more insightful. I enjoyed the EP regardless.
Yes, loving it.
With the backstory behind it all, definitely going to run it up a few more times today.
Even more so.
So
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, I really, really appreciate you both for having me as well. Last final plug, I have a show on the 2nd of December. So Darren,
my birthday month.
Yeah, because you didn't come to the last one, and this one is free because I'm not hosting it. But I am supporting someone. Afrocomb, the band is called. So yeah, come through and enjoy the vibes, and it will be a different kind of lineup as last time as well. So
Perfect.
But I would like to reiterate and say, you guys keep going. I love this podcast. Thank you for having me back. Thank you for asking amazing questions, being great listeners, being people that look inwards and take time to think about stuff, which is just gorgeous. It's so good to be in conversation with you both, especially like intellectually, mutually, spiritually, the lot.
Oh, thank you so much. And honestly, it feels like such a nice full circle moment to have you back on the pod after the first episode.
I agree. This is like part 2 of that one.
And it's a full circle moment for us as well, for you to come to like
new studio
for us.
Growth all around.
Growing through it.
But obviously open door whenever you want to come back if you've got more to promote, more to talk about.
Love that. I appreciate that, and I will come back because there's loads to talk about.
No, thank you. Well, that brings us to a close of this episode. Anything you want to add before we round it up?
No, that was, thank you again. You know, I feel a lot more peaceful with my journey now, and to like meet the things that come up. So yeah, and I hope other people do too.
I agree. Until next time.
Yeah.
Bye.